Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about my Stormworks story. So what got me started, how I got here, and all the steps in between. Now it started in 2021 when I finally bought the game, and how I even came across it, well, pretty much there was a Steam sale, some sort of discount, and it was on the homepage of Steam. So I saw this game, it looked quite interesting, it had like the helicopter, the ship, all that stuff, and I clicked on it, and I looked at the pictures, and I'm thinking, alright, like, this is some kind of game where you build things, kind of like Minecraft, for example, but I don't play Minecraft. I've never played Minecraft, and in fact, I've never really played any building game other than, let's say, Armadillo Run, which I've talked about in the past. So that was the only other engineering game I've played before. The rest was games like Grand Theft Auto, games like Far Cry, Call of Duty, all that type of stuff, and racing games like Forza, Need for Speed. So that's kind of the genre that I used to really love. And this was something different. So I didn't buy the game right away. I saw the game on the Steam sale, and I didn't buy it, but I kind of looked at some videos on YouTube and thought about, alright, like, this looks kind of interesting. A few years previously, I'd really heavily played PUBG, and before that, or after that, sorry, played the Call of Duty Warzone with all of our friends. Of course, we were all working at home, all that stuff, so in the evenings we would jump on a Warzone run and play together. So for the last little while, that's kind of what I'd done. And of course, like I said, the Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, and games like that, whether with story or whether just kind of like playing online, that's what I used to do. Now, when I saw this sale, like I said, I was intrigued, looked through the pictures, started watching some YouTube videos, and I started Googling tutorials and searching up tutorials on YouTube of what can be built, how to build it. Obviously, a lot of Mr. NJ content came up, and I looked through the Mr. NJ content, how to make a helicopter, how to make a VTOL, how to make a car, ship, all that stuff. And obviously from the cover art and some of the art for Stormworks, it seemed that it was heavily into ships, of course, Stormworks. And being a fan of ships myself, being very intrigued, having been on cruise ships before and other types of vessels, I thought that was quite an interesting topic, especially to be able to build the whole thing, build the interior, build the exterior, code it, all that stuff. Just looked super cool. Also, in parallel, in the last couple of years as well, I'd gotten back into Lego. Previously, I was very much into Lego as a child, and of course during the university phase and all that other stuff kind of in life, university, school, chasing girls, whatever, you kind of drop some hobbies off. But as I grew a little older and kind of became more established in my relationship with my girlfriend at the time and all that stuff, well, girlfriend who's now my fiance, but as I became into or more established, I got into these other hobbies, and one of them was Lego. So I drew some parallels with the things in Stormworks to my hobby with Lego. Anyways, long story short, having seen all this, having kind of searched it all up and whatnot, a few days after the sale, after noticing the sale, I bought the game. And that's kind of where it started, where I got up to that point. But that's only the intro. I bought the game, and I didn't even know how to subscribe to creations. That's kind of my experience with Steam creations, or Steam Workshop, let's call it. And I'm tech savvy. I've been using computers. I've designed video games in the past. I was a graphic designer for some video games, and I've done a bunch of computer programming. I've installed my own computer's parts and software and all that stuff. So I'm technologically pretty good, but I've never even downloaded a workshop creation in any game, so I didn't even know that the subscribe button, I was looking for a download button, all that fun stuff. So I subscribed to a bunch of creations, some search and rescue vessels, some large vessels, some small, whatever, a lot of stuff, and started exploring Stormworks with that. Now, I will admit I didn't actually play career mode with the creations from the workshop, but rather I played with the preset little boat, the kind of rib that you find in the preset menu. And I did that actually before subscribing to any creations, so even after having subscribed, I just continued playing with the rib. But I would test out the boats that I subscribed to in the workshop, and I'd play career mode. So I didn't even play the sandbox mode. I heavily played career mode, where I just went around the map and saved people, pretty much, put out fires, whatever. So the very beginning type of thing of Stormworks is what I really started in heavily. And even looking at the boat in the workshop, the pre-built rib, I was fascinated with the amount of connectors, the amount of different logic and tools, and I couldn't even begin to understand the process of the engine and how it all connected and related to the gas tanks and the ignition and throttle and all that stuff. So I was amazed at even the simple rib. And my first experience modding anything, which would be that rib, was to try to get it to reverse a little faster. So if you've ever played with the pre-built rib, or at least maybe back then before it was changed a bunch of times, it would go forward pretty fast. I'm not sure, maybe like whatever, 20 knots or something. But in reverse, it really would struggle. And I'm guessing the fact of the matter is, in reverse, now I know, is that boats come highly unstable. You have to almost use the fins to control it. Otherwise, because the propellers would be in the rear and they'd be kind of pulling you, it would cause you to go out of the water. So I guess the reverse was detuned heavily, and it would go so slow in reverse. So I'm like, I gotta turn this up. It would take forever. So I went into the logic, and I was lost, but I just started tweaking numbers and testing, and eventually I got it. So, but not in the first. I think it took me maybe like 6 tries to find out why it was the reverse wasn't going as fast as the forward throttle. And in that little kind of series of tests, I was like, all right, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of fun. I was able to figure something out. And funny enough, I told my dad, because I told him about it at the time that I was playing with this new engineering game, and he was like, that's quite cool. So when I told him I like changed up some parameters of this rib, he's like, wow, right on, like good. And in parallel, obviously, a lot of you know I'm an engineer, so I have my engineering career where we do modeling, where we do stress analysis and all that stuff. And stress analysis for structural members is kind of similar to Stormworks in a sense that you design a building, let's say, you assign members, you run an analysis, and it will tell you which members are close to being 100% utilized, which are underutilized, which you can adjust, whatever. So in real life, that's what I do. And what that process teaches me is you design something, you assume members, and you go and change them and optimize them. And then, of course, if you design the connections and all that other stuff, foundations. But that process of going back and forth kind of my interest was sparked or piqued when I changed that reverse gear. I was like, all right, that's quite interesting, quite similar to what I do for real life. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to build my own vessel. So that is kind of a new chapter where I actually started watching reviews with the intention of building them, or rather learning how to build and then building creations. So I watched Mr. NJ videos, and I ended up with this awesome tutorial, just a sheet, because I'm a visual learner and I like going through steps. So there was a document that was on the workshop, and I just read it and kept it open on one screen and built my vessel on the other screen. Now my first vessel, while actually pretty good, I'm quite happy with how it turned out, all things told. It was the first thing I ever built, and it was built in multiple iterations where I would build something, play in the career mode actually, and then find I have to change something. So a great example of that is adding the bilge pump. I built the vessel, kept the door open, and water flooded in. So I'm like, all right, I need a bilge pump. So I added a bilge pump. Then to add a bed afterwards, or to add some other systems, the radar systems that I figured out how to subscribe to on the workshop and then add into my vessel, all that type of stuff. So it kind of came in multiple iterations. I would say over the span of the first few weeks of the game, I played only with the pre-built rib. Then the next few months, I built my ship. Let's say 1 month. I kind of tweaked it, adjusted it, sent a video of it to my grandpa, showed my dad on FaceTime, all that stuff of the boat, and he's like, that's fascinating. And it just had, not that much logic or whatever, but I was amazed at the extent of creativity and the fact that it came from my own vision and my own head, and that everything I built myself there, other than the microcontrollers. But that's fine. Even the engine microcontroller I did build. It's only some of the more advanced stuff I didn't. So I was amazed, and that ship was my pride and joy. I was so happy with it. I loved it. It had 2 control helms. I built those microcontrollers myself. You change the button and it uses the upper helm. Added a second engine in case my first one dies. Added spare gas tanks. Did the whole thing. Loved every bit of it. Loved testing it out and playing with it in career mode. And then I was like, all right, it's time to upgrade to a bigger ship. So I started building a bigger ship that was based on my first platform, but just bigger. It had multiple staterooms and all that stuff. And that one never caught on. I never really liked it that much. I played career mode with it, but it was pretty much just a bigger version of my other ship, first of all. And second of all, it was not as optimized. My first one was just 1 cabin, 1 controller, all that stuff. The second one, I kind of went into the creative side and added like a living room, a lounge, whatever. And wasn't, it costs more money in the career mode without much purpose, which is fine. But then I'm like, why am I even playing in career mode if I like to build so much? I'm just going to jump into sandbox mode and do whatever I want. So that second ship I did finish, but in essence, I got out of playing career mode because of it, and started the sandbox and started on the RV Alberta. Now that is the first ship that I released, and it came sometime in the first quarter of 2021. I want to say March maybe, but that ship I released to the Steam workshop, and it was a hit. It hit the homepage, got a bunch of downloads, people commenting, and I built a little bit of a fan base. So first vehicle ever that I released, and people were intrigued and loving it. So I kind of grew on based on that. All right, I'm going to try to build some other ships, and I really love underwater exploration. I love the Dirk Pitt novels. I love Clive Cussler novels, and I was just like, I'm going to build my own kind of Numa, in essence. So I started with Oma, and that is pretty much where it got me building, submarines, submersibles, diving bells. Anytime I hear something interesting in one of the Dirk Pitt novels, I decide to try to build my own version of it in Stormworks, and so on and so forth. Then I would listen, and they'd talk about a helicopter in the book or whatever. I'd watch a movie with a helicopter, and I'm like, I'm going to try to build a helicopter. And all that kind of went on into cars, into trailers, semi-trucks, airplanes, all that stuff. So I've pretty much done the whole spectrum of creations and things, and loved every bit of it. Grew as I developed these things. Now, nothing came overnight. So people that say it takes me so long to build something and I don't know the steps, well, it didn't take, it took me a while. And I'll say, I had creations take me days on end, months. In fact, some of the more advanced vessels, the RSV Almeria, for example, took me a few months of building. And I developed, for example, helicopters specifically for that ship, and a submersible for that ship, and all that stuff. So it kind of led one task to another, but I got more comfortable with building and was able to kind of excel on that. And then I took on the biggest project I'll probably ever take on, the MV Cochrane, which is the spy ship based on the Clive Cussler novels The Organ Files. So that boat or vessel was like the pinnacle of my building career, let's say in terms of size and just function. And I do plan on building other large vessels, don't worry, but I just think the scope of work for all the movable parts, all the features, for me in that ship, that was kind of the top. I don't know if I ever want to take on a job as big as that ever again, just because I'd rather focus on multiple creations and factions and creativity and usefulness rather than just one single thing. But I loved it. That was kind of where all of my various skills came into play, and I finally did it. And I will say, with that vessel, I was like, all right, I built kind of the best vessel I'll ever build, and I started on the OMA Diving Academy. That was the first call it building that I built. And up until that point, I've not even tried to build any add-ons. I've only built from the workbench and spawned it from the workbench and all that stuff. So the OMA Diving Academy was that. It spawned on the Creative Island. But what was crazy is people are like, why are you spawning it from the workbench? Why don't you just add it in as an add-on? And I'm like, what even is an add-on? And Sheppy5 helped me with that, sent a video how to spawn add-ons in. And then Sheppy5 and myself made the dealership. We've made other things. We made the, with Yuli 5, we made this Alta pipeline. So kind of got into the add-on side of things a bit more after that point. But it was with the Diving Academy that I decided I'm going to start making YouTube videos to document the behind the scenes of the Diving Academy. It was such an intricate build. The missions were very creative and fun, and developing them was interesting. So I'm like, I'm going to make some YouTube videos. And the YouTube channel, of course, was used for the challenge itself. You have to type in a video to kind of get a cutscene, in essence, because the game doesn't allow cutscenes. But I wanted like a receptionist to talk to you. I wanted the head honcho at OMA to talk to you. So I did want some cutscenes, and that came in the form of video links that you get in the Diving Academy that you open up and watch. So that started the YouTube side of things, where then I actually found huge joy making YouTube videos for Stormworks, tutorials, anything I could really find to talk about and do, and kind of go from there. And I really still do jump between building and YouTube videos. I would say 50-50. I love doing both. Some days feel like doing one thing more than the other, which is fine. It gives me that creativity. And actually, I think the addition of these various things, so, starting off with just career mode, then the addition of building things, then learning different things, then jumping into submitting and uploading creations, building a fan base, to eventually making my YouTube channel, and eventually after that my Discord server, hosting the build challenges, all that stuff. It's been so much fun, and it's really just seemed like a journey that makes logical sense. Every time I excel at one thing, I add something else into my scope of work and excel at that too, kind of go on from there. And I really do enjoy it. So thank you all who've been part of the journey. I plan on continuing. Don't see me going anywhere anytime soon. I love it, especially here in Canada. Winters are cold. There's nothing to do outside. So I do love building ships and making videos, especially during wintertime. Summertime, obviously, not as much, just because it's so nice out and, busyness. But I will be building and releasing things, making videos, making creations. Thank you all for the support, the journey. I love the comments. I love the positivity. I love seeing that I've helped others, whether with engineering or providing them with creations that they love. And I want to thank you all for being there for me for this. So, with that said, hope you enjoyed the video, the backstory. Stay tuned for more content, more creations. And as always, happy Stormworksing, everyone.